Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to start our special city council meeting. Mr. Clerk, would you please take roll call?
Dave Abdallah.
Here.
Bill Bazin.
Here.
Robert Constant.
Here.
Lisa Hicks Clayton.
Here.
Denise Malinowski Maxwell.
Here.
Ray Muscat.
Here.
Tom Wenzel.
Here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. I'd like to have our resident Edward Jackson lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Next, we have agenda approval. With this...
Oh, sorry.
No, let me finish.
Sorry.
We have the agenda approval. With this, we have the addition of 9A. We need to walk it on. The agreement, this agreement was approved at the December 10th, 2019 meeting, but the motion 19-469 did not include the mayor and the clerk to sign. This one we're putting on today is the same exact one, but this one does authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement.
Madam Chair.
Councilwoman Hicks Clayton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My apologies for you. Didn't know you were going to read that.
Sorry.
All right. I move to approve the order of business for December 17th, 2019, special meeting of the Dearborn Heights City Council with the addition of item 9A.
Support.
Supported by who got it? Councilman Muscat. Is there any discussion?
Just as clarification, what agreement was that?
That was the Human Resource Director, Sabota Perry, the
Oh,
Plant
okay.
Moran Group benefit advisors regarding,
Okay. Yes.
the reporting assistance. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we have approval of minutes.
Madam Chair,
Councilman Constant?
I move that the minutes from, do we have minutes from?
Madam
Oh,
Chair,
you know
point
what?
of
We
order,
don't have any minutes
those.
from that one. Okay, sorry.
Ed.
We skipped that. Gotcha. Next, we have fund transfers and current claims.
Madam Chair, point of order 5, public hearings on common agenda items.
Yeah, you know what, you're right. Okay.
Sorry, thank you.
Next, we have public hearing and comment on agenda items. That's 3 minutes. Come to the microphone and state your name. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. At this time, there is none. We'll move on to fund transfers and current claims.
Madam Chair.
Councilwoman Hicks Clayton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Move to approve current claims 6-1 through 6-7 as submitted.
Support.
Supported by Councilman Muscat. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Next, under reports from city officials, this is 9A, which we just walked on, and that is the reporting assistance.
Madam Chair,
Councilman Constant.
I move we authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement submitted by our Human Resources Director, Elizabeth Sabota Perry, and previously voted on, as outlined in 9A.
Support.
Supported by Councilman Muscat. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Next item is under communications. This is Plant and Moran, PLLC, 2019-2020 Water Budget and Independent Accountants Report on applying agreed-upon procedures.
Council Chair,
Councilman Muscat.
I move City Council accept the Plant Moran Independent Accountant Report on applied agreed upon procedures as outlined in 12A.
Support.
Supported by Councilman Abdullah. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair, for clarification, does this include the rate increase or does it not?
I believe it does.
It does.
Okay.
What was outlined?
Just want to make clear.
We're approving the water budget as presented. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair,
Councilman Abdullah?
so for clarification on that, we had at one point a reduction of the water rates, and now we have an increase of the water rates. So just so that we're clear, because I know we had a situation last time, I believe, with the controllers, where she came back to us and said, what do we really mean? And so I think it's got to be clarified in this particular case. Does this include the 10% reduction?
No.
And
No.
Just everything that's in the Plant Moran.
okay, but what I'm saying is we should clarify that to the controllers so we don't go through the same process or same
It
situation
says
all over
it's
again.
presented
Because the
tonight.
rates were flat
And we just going from the flat rate.
We're going from as presented tonight, the flat rate.
Yeah, because that was the last budget. This is a totally different year budget.
This is, yeah.
And he's given me the outline breakdown. This is what I was looking for last year, where it's going to tell you what percentage of the water rates, the sewer rate, and the flat rate. So he's given us the information that I can get from my staff.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair.
Councilman Abdullah.
So I'm not sure if this particular one, who specifically would answer it. And I know we had a study session just before this where a lot of our questions were answered. But I still have a little bit of a concern, it's just a question actually, and I'm not sure, I believe this might be a question for you, Martin. With the extra money we have in the water fund, that we've consistently had in the water fund, that I think personally is a little bit over and above what is needed. And obviously, in the fact that the thing that shows me that is we seem to go to it for a lot of expenses that are sometimes arguably not water related. With that being the fact, is there any chance that we could cut some fat from that one to not increase the water rates as much? And what would be the potential consequences?
So the cash that's in the water and sewer fund right now, you do have operating cash, and then there's the $4 million that is the CSO levy for debt payments. So that is being used in the model for debt payments in the future years, and actually in that 5-year model. And then the other cash is just used for the water and sewer expenses overall.
Okay, so it would not be an option for us then?
So it's not, if you may be referring to some of the money that was borrowed when the city had negative fund balance in the corporate fund.
Right.
That money has been repaid with interest over time. So the water and sewer fund was made whole from that.
No, I realize it was made whole, but I'm talking about the extra money available, just like it was available back then. How much is available right now?
So you do have, so there's some cash that's needed for operations in general. The calculation for, based on the model here, so you're required to have about $7 million in cash at any point in time to keep the lights on, quote unquote. As of right now, as of June 30th of 2019, you actually had about 10 million, so you did have more. You had about $3 million more. However, the budget does call for about usage of about $6 million all in the 2019 and 2020 year because of the capital outlay expenditures. So you're going to use up, I guess, the extra $3 million all in 2020, and actually you're going to use up an extra $3 million. So you're going to actually fall below that $7 million, and over the 5-year period, you're going to try and get back to that $7 million.
And even if we use the $3 million, you mentioned that that would only decrease the rate by 1%.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair?
Councilman Constant?
And I should have asked this earlier, if we bond for the, let's say for our new water reading system, an updated water reader meeting system, would that lower our rates?
So the water meter system actually and the CSO, the two projects, are expected to be bonded, and that's built into the model right now.
Okay, okay. Thank
So
you.
that's actually, if you had to buy the water meters, I believe the expense was around $5 million. That would actually increase your rates considerably more than the 6.5%.
Like the one year we bonded for the new fire truck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Councilman Bazey?
I know, Martin, you mentioned earlier, okay, so I know this here ends in June of 2020, then there'll be another proposal or new budget for next year, correct? So one of the things that you mentioned is the city or the administration will have to have a plan or something to shave off $3 million, right? So
If you wanted to not have the increase as projected, for every $3 million you'd shave off, you'd save about 1%.
Okay, so I'm requesting right now, we're a few months in advance with this request for the next budget that the administration have a plan. So if we have to go and vote on another budget for the water or any budget, the administration needs to go and show the council, you know, that where they're shaving money off, or to see what the administration is actually doing as well. So instead of keep taking money from taxpayers, the administration needs to show us as well what they're doing to shave off costs, additional costs or excessive costs.
Madam Chair, in response, a lot of these projects, if we had not actually got involved, gone to the state, had discussions, these rate increases would be triple what they are. The CSO work, the state wanted us to do 10 years ago. And we fought them on that, and we have continued, but we have run out of room. And it's the debt projects, but I don't know how I control rate increases, or John Selmy from Great Lakes Water Authority, DUA, and in fact, DUA we kind of controlled by taking over the system, and then also with the Rouge Valley expenses, and those are the big ones. And if you took all the administrative costs, I don't even think it amounts more than about 5 million. So I don't know if you want us to lay off more than half the people in the department. I don't think it's realistic.
Okay, thank you.
I guess if you want, I can address that. I'm talking about excessive usage of certain things. I'm not talking about laying off people. I mean, one example that pops to my head right now, excessive amount of vehicles the city owns or the taxpayers own is being used by part-time workers or a city that is 4 days. And, you know, I mean, today was a good example. I got called from somebody that one of your directors was not even midday somewhere in Dearborn with a city car in somebody's driveway. So that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. I'm not talking about laying off people. I'm talking using vehicles wisely and using. If you're on a business trip, I can understand that. So this is the kind of stuff that we keep asking over and over. The use or misuse of city vehicles and you know, the taxpayers are paying for it. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about.
But it's unfounded accusations like always.
No, I got, yeah, you need to.
Okay, let's move on. Any further discussion? Councilman Wenzel?
Yeah, he was first.
Yeah, Council Chair, I wanted to ask, what is the intention with respect to the prior motion that was adopted? Is the idea is to rescind that? And there probably should be some clarity with regard to that.
That was so we can have the clerk and the mayor sign it, because we omitted that from the original motion.
No. I'm referring to the water budget where there was the 10% cut in rates. Is that motion going to end up being rescinded?
Well, it never took place. This is a new budget.
Okay. I thought that was part of the prior budget. And then when would... does this make assumptions with regard to the rates that you're referring to, and when does it make the assumption that they begin?
It's effective January 1st.
Okay, all right.
Okay, any further discussion?
Chair?
Councilman Wenzel?
Now, this budget increase takes, just answering one of the questions, is January 1st it takes effect, but then in July we'll be voting on a new water budget, and that would be taking into consideration a 5-year program then, correct?
That is correct. So based on the study session, it was a request to have this discussion and have the budget presented in April, May timing. We're happy to do so. We can build in if there's an increase that's required. So as of right now, it looks at, you know, the 6.5%. It does not have to take place starting July 1st. It can always be effective January 1st. But this way, the expenses, the capital outlay, et cetera, are being able to be budgeted for, and you can anticipate ahead of time versus worrying about and waiting until November, December timing to get that approval. But the water rate increase, the water and sewer rate increase does not have to take place effective July 1st, just because the budget year it starts at that point.
Okay, thank you.
We voted on a 10% cut in water budget over 6 months ago, and 6 months from now we'll be doing it again, so I vote no, because I don't want any budget increase right now.
Councilwoman Hicks Clayton?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do think I would like to request a parliamentary opinion on what Attorney Miyake said, because I think I agree with you that we have an existing motion, a legislative action that took place by this council body, and that's still standing.
Right. And
this action does not negate it.
Yeah.
So therefore, something has to happen with it.
If I may, I'm sorry to the gentlewoman for interrupting there, but it creates a lack of clarity in terms of exactly what's supposed to be happening with respect to this, because as I understand that 10% cut in rates was not actually put into effect. Is that part of the assumptions in this budget? If it is, then perhaps this would be looked at as an implied rescission of that prior motion, but it probably should be done clearly in some way. And Mr. Clerk, I mean, maybe you would have some suggestion in terms of the parliamentary procedure on that, but my sense as a matter of recommendation would be to make sure that that is clearly addressed so that there's no misunderstanding in the future.
Mr. Clerk?
I certainly could go back and rescind that motion. We don't have the motion number available right at this time. If my memory serves me right, through the discussion, I thought that it was clarified that these rate effects would be raised from the current rates, which
Correct.
are, and I may be mistaken, but I thought that was somehow put in your motion. If it wasn't, maybe that could just be included in the motion to clarify that.
Madam Chair.
I made the motion, and from what I read here is that we're voting on a water budget proposed by Plant Moran from what the rates are today. Okay.
Without the 10%?
With the flat rate that's here, because the 10% never got kicked in. Okay, so it's a flat, their assumption of here is where it's at right at the present moment. Am I correct in saying that?
That's absolutely correct.
So
That's the way I take it, too.
So we vote on it that way, and
You need to rescind
from the flat rate.
10%. You need to rescind the motion.
Why?
Because
Because it's still on there.
it's standing on the
I mean,
books.
then we're going to reduce.
But we got a new budget now coming.
Doesn't matter.
This is a new budget.
Mr. Clerk? Wait, okay, let's ask, Mr. Clerk, how would you like us to proceed with this?
Probably for clarity and for the future, so that we don't have to revisit this, probably it would be prudent to make a motion to rescind the 10% that was passed, or the 10% reduction that was passed earlier in the year. And
Someone like to make that motion?
With my motion that I put in earlier, I'd also like to add in that the 10% be dismissed.
It would be two different motions, right? We have to do two different motions.
Is it two different motions, or
Yes.
just add it right in?
Let's rescind it.
I believe that would be reasonable just to include that as an amended motion.
Okay, so with the motion that I make to agree with Plant Moran's assumption for the new water rates from the flat rate and to dismiss the 10% cut as outlined in Plant Moran's audit.
12A.
12A.
Support.
Supported by Councilman Constant. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Councilman Wenzel is opposed, and Councilman Bazey is opposed, and Denise Malinowski Maxwell is opposed. Okay.
Did you get that?
Next item on the agenda is new business. This is the business license renewal for the Van Born Tavern and Grill located at 22426 Van Born.
Madam Chair,
Councilman Constant.
I move that we approve the business license renewal for the Van Born Tavern and Grill on Van Born Road in South Dearborn Heights as outlined in 13A.
Support.
Supported by Councilwoman Hicks Clayton. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we have members of the public. This is comments from council members.
Council Chair?
Councilman Muscat?
I wanted to bring this up a couple meetings ago, and I just didn't. I don't know why I didn't, but I didn't. But we, at one time, had a ordinance written for cell towers. And we voted it down as a group. But I don't think we knew exactly what was being voted on, okay? These cell towers, that ordinance was going to give us some right to where they go. We could have some restrictions. Without it, we have none. And I think people thought of this ordinance as to allow them to come in, but it wasn't. So I don't know how we can do it, but I'm going to ask if we can bring it back so we can look at it better, because they're putting a cell tower right now by Cherry Hill Bowling Alley. It's a big one. okay? And
Not the big one.
we don't, right now, we have nothing to stop them with. That ordinance was going to give us a little bit, and I think when we voted on it, we weren't quite sure what it was for, so I'm going to ask if we can bring it back to take another look at it.
Council Chair?
Councilman Abdullah?
Off of my recollection, it passed at the time.
No, it failed.
It failed.
With the second reading, it failed.
Okay, it was second reading, okay.
Because, people thought that we were going to give them, everybody carte blanche to put them wherever they want, but that was not the case. It was to actually stop them.
They have carte blanche now under.
Right now, they got carte blanche, and we got nothing to stop them, say, hey, we don't want it in this neighborhood, you move it over or do whatever. And I'm not totally positive by me saying that, but it gives us some sort of right to, to try to stop them. So I'd like to bring it back and we can look at it at least.
You want to do a study session on it?
Again, that's strictly up to you, Council Chair, if we bring it up, or, the other members, but I just want to make sure
Maybe we do a study
that.
session to readdress it and
Madam Chair,
possibly reconsider it.
go ahead, I'm
Councilman
sorry.
Constant?
We had the attorneys in, and and this was the 5G.
Correct.
So, because the technology now is with the smaller boxes, so they can, the video signal and everything is more dense. But yeah, the right-of-way, because there's federal law and state law that preempts a lot of the city's authority, and that the attorney from wherever he was from, I think was from
Seacrest Wardle.
from Seacrest Wardle said, this gives us some right-of-way. We can have the attorneys back, or we can, if we want to go to that expense, or just, probably wouldn't be a bad idea to have a study session, actually.
Okay, we'll readdress it, and we'll look at it and reconsider it.
Thank you.
Any further discussion from the table? Okay, at this time,
Go ahead.
Madam Chair?
Councilman Abdullah?
Just quickly, I had a conversation with Director John Selmy, and I still to this, and I know you guys are doing the best you can, and you're doing a great job overall. But people are always, it's always brought up, they haven't swept my streets. They haven't, shoveled my street, they can tell if they have or haven't. But swept, with the street sweepers. And you had mentioned to me when I had a conversation with you that there's a possible app that could possibly be used where people can check when their street was done, or at one point I'd mentioned maybe we could put it on the website. Because what I always answer people back with, based on what you guys have told me, is that there's just no way that you're doing, 8 streets, but not the other 42, et cetera, et cetera. And I believe you. But is there a way that we could have it a little bit more documented where a resident can check if their own street has been done and at least approximately when? If not the app, maybe a website, something. Maybe post it at the front here, I don't know.
Yeah, I think going into this next spring, and there's some programs out there that we're looking at and partnering with some other local communities as a beta test for a Verizon-based product that goes on the equipment, where we can see it internally, and then at some point then we can turn it on externally so that we can see when and where. So some of our thoughts were obviously the street sweepers and the snow plows, right? So you have a plow on my street, when you have a plow on my street, you have a sweep on my street, type of things, and have better documentation other than, a map with some highlighters on it.
Because the answer I've consistently given them, you've even given the same thing, it's practically impossible for a resident, any resident, to sit there and watch their street all day. And I know they always tell me, no, I watch most of the day, but it's just not logical that somebody would sit and watch their street all day. So that would help a lot in eliminating that type of a concern, which is, obviously a resident's right to have their streets swept. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment? Councilman?
Well, I always ask our veterans in the audience to stand up, even though we have a small audience. Could our veterans please stand up and be recognized? And I got something I want to share with everyone. I think it's 3 minutes and something seconds long.
It was the night before Christmas. He lived all alone in a one-bedroom house made of plaster and stone. I had come down the chimney with presents to give, and to see just who in this dwelling did live. I looked looked all around, a strange sight to see. No tinsel, no presents, not even a tree. No stockings on the mantel, just boots filled with sand. On the wall hung pictures of far distant lands. Medals and badges, awards of every kind. A sobering thought came alive in my mind. This house was different. It was dark, it was dreary. I had found the home of a soldier. I could see that most clearly. The soldier lay sleeping, silent, alone, curled up on the floor in this one-bedroom home. His face was so gentle, the room in such disorder, not at all how I pictured a United States soldier. Was this the hero of whom I'd just read, curled up on a poncho, the floor for a bed? Then I realized the other families that I saw this night owed their lives to soldiers who were willing to fight. In the morning, around the world, children would play. Grown-ups would celebrate a bright Christmas day. But they all enjoy freedom each month of the year because of soldiers like the one lying here. I couldn't help but wonder how many lay alone on a cold Christmas Eve in lands far from home. The very thought brought a tear to my eye. I dropped to my knees and I started to cry. The soldier awakened. I heard his rough voice. Santa, don't cry. This life is my choice. I fight for freedom. I don't ask for more. My life is my God, my country, my core. The soldier rolled over and drifted asleep. But I couldn't control it and I continued to weep. I kept watch for hours, so silent and still as both of us shivered from the cold night's chill. I didn't want to leave him on that cold, dark night, this guardian of honor, so willing to fight. Then the soldier rolled over with a voice soft and pure. He whispered, "Carry on, Santa. It's Christmas Day, all secure." One look at my watch, I knew he was right. Merry Christmas, my friend. May God bless you this night.
Merry Christmas to all the veterans out there. God bless you all. God bless Dearborn Heights, and God bless America.
Mr. Clerk, did you have something?
Yes, I'd just like to wish our elected officials, our department heads, our employees, and all of our citizens a very Merry Christmas, a blessed, peaceful, and healthy New Year.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you.
Same to you. Same to you.
Okay, any other comments from the council table? Now we will open up to public announcements. I don't think we have anyone here. So then we will move on to public comments. 3 minutes, state your name, come to the podium. No one. Hey, do I hear a...
Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Meeting is adjourned.